Welcome and thank you everyone for joining. We have an exciting session. We're going to be talking about planning and scheduling. My name is Dana Baranowski and I'm the Growth Marketing Manager here at Elevated Signals. We've got Hardeep, who's our co-founder and CEO. You guys probably know him by now. And same with Jason. Jason is our product lead here. What we're going to go over today is a little bit about planning. So we'll tell you why we built it. Then we'll jump into a demo and show you what it does for your team, and then also talk about what we're building next. And then there'll be a Q&A session at the end. A little bit of housekeeping rules. So the Q&A will be at the end. So if you have any questions in the meantime, please use the Q&A tab at the bottom. You'll see it at the bottom of your Zoom there. Or you can put them in the chat. I'll monitor that as well. And there'll also be a recording of the session that I'll send over to you guys in the next few days as well. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Hardeep to kick things off.
Awesome. Well, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone it might be. Yeah, we're pretty excited to go through this. We first started talking about planning, production planning as an organization around Q3 of last year. And so we were able to finally get it onto the roadmap towards the end of last year, and we've been working on it. We've been conducting interviews and talking to different teams about how they handle production planning. And I think we're starting to get to a place where by the end of this month, we will have our deployment starting to happen. So, however, before we get into any of that, what I'll do is I'm actually going to share some slides that goes over why we built it, what it is, and then Jason, will jump into the demo. So give me 1 second, share the screen. Okay. Hopefully everybody can see this. So planning and scheduling, let's kick it off. All right, the why. So why did we go down this journey? Why is it important? So really, we've been over the years articulating why it is, why we do what we do. So a fun little fact about, I think 3.5 weeks ago now, possibly, we turned 8 years old as a company. And our journey in the cannabis industry has been pretty fun. It's one of the most interesting and unique and challenging and fun industries to be a part of. But really, I think the thing that we have really focused on as an organization is how do we help companies reach the next phase of growth. And so early on when we started in the cannabis industry, one of the biggest barriers for an organization was really around regulation. And so if you think about what that is, Health Canada was coming in, conducting audits very frequently. And that was from a health and safety standpoint, but for an organization, it was really about proving that you have your processes in control, you have the ability to provide accurate records, your data is auditable, and that you can prove the traceability of your products internally as an organization. So that was the world in which we started building Elevated Signals. But over the years, this the cannabis industry has really changed and evolved. And what we're seeing is the cannabis industry is becoming more and more like a traditional CPG, food and beverage CPG, where you can actually start to see the supply chain starting to fragment. So originally, if you looked at any cannabis operator, everybody was vertically integrated. The world that we live in today, we've got people who are doing cultivation, people who are doing B2B toll processing, people who are shipping internationally, people who have brands in domestic regions, some in many regions, some in just a few regions. And so the way that we like to kind of phrase it is the way that you can play the game as a cannabis operator has gotten really complex. And so, everybody now has a very nuanced way of trying to think about how they reach the next phase of growth. So this is kind of what I was talking about. Growth really looks different. Today's producers, they're not just surviving, they're manufacturing, they're scaling, they're launching new SKUs, entering international markets. I've had the privilege of going to 2 international conferences this year, one in Berlin, one in Australia, and you can definitely see the build out internationally, the kind of the expansion of this industry starting to happen. And everybody in this industry is really trying to operate like a world-class CPG company, right? We think about those top brands that we love. That is really what we're trying to strive for as an industry. So the challenges have shifted. If we really think about internally inside the house, what are the types of questions that we see coming up, and why does planning exist? It's questions like, how do we fulfill orders on time every time, right? That consistency aspect that we talk about. How do we know what to make, when to make it, and with what team? This is like labor, this is make to order, make to stock. How do we plan production around exports, labor, raw material constraints? How do we reduce reliance on whiteboard spreadsheets? And I think that the interesting term that we've been using internally is tribal knowledge. Really, scale means repeatable processes, and repeatable processes means getting rid of tribal knowledge. And so you can kind of clearly really see that these aren't just compliance problems, but they're an orchestration problem within the organization. So without orchestration, things really fall apart. You'll have you might miss production deadlines. Materials might expire. These are materials that have shelf life, stability. Teams are waiting on one another for tasks to resolve, right? Is this thing completed? Can I start my work? We've seen kind of overlapping of rooms and equipment. I talked about tribal knowledge already. And really it's like, every Monday, if I'm on a call with a customer, I always ask the question, hey, any fires today? It's really, we're kind of, as Elevated Signals, as well as our customers, we're all scaling, we're all kind of feeling similar types of challenges. We're all trying to put processes in place to have that repeatability, right? So some of the things that we see is, that tribal knowledge, right? So there's no maybe one unified production calendar. There might be a cultivation one, a post-harvest one, one for sales, right? Repeatable workflows and templates, forward-looking resource planning. So we're seeing teams really struggle with this in terms of what materials do we have. The answer of what materials do we have today is easy, but the answer to the question of we've got these different sales orders in place. We have these materials that we've already ordered. There's this production that we're looking to have in place. Do we have enough materials for the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, right? Getting to that kind of level of sophistication where you can look out 6 months. Like, we're not really sure if the cannabis industry is there. That's not to say that companies aren't there, but because of how dynamic this environment is and how quickly the market changes, it makes it really hard. And so we've really been taking that into account. Is what is something that we've done really well as an organization is allow for businesses to be agile, to be reactive. And what we're now trying to help organizations with is how do we become proactive, right? So this is why we built planning. The planning module is really moving people from being in kind of this reactive firefighting to proactive execution. So we want to give teams a shared source of truth, a live visual plan that connects batches, people, machines, bill of materials, sales orders, purchase orders, kind of everything that lives in Elevated Signals. And so something that we're trying to really replace is those scattered spreadsheets. I always kind of laugh internally where it's like the features that we're building are really trying to just replace those spreadsheets, right? replace the spreadsheets and provide a lot of productivity that's missed with the spreadsheets, right? We see hallway conversations. It's always funny. I think I have like dozens and dozens of whiteboard, pictures of whiteboard calendars in terms of how people are trying to actually schedule out these events. And so for an organization, if we think about trying to answer that one question of how do we get to the next phase of growth, well, even for companies like us, Elevated Signals, that's through structured, repeatable processes, it's visibility across departments, and it's building that confidence to expand into new product lines, new formats, and new markets, right? So we think that planning is a bridge to do some of that. It really is helping, it really is about helping startups to become scale-ups and scale-ups to become enterprises, right? And so for the organizations that are in scale mode, really we think that there's some opportunities. So if we build out this planning, well, what is that allowing us to build a future for, right? It is allowing us to build a future for stock forecasting, for resource capacity and modeling, for cost of goods sold tracking, and then the fun one that everybody probably is starting to get more and more familiar with is how AI really impacts day-to-day workflows. For us as a company, it's been transformational. Yeah, it's been absolutely great, and we're hoping to bring more and more of this to the organizations that we work with. And so really, we want to build the tools, modern tools that help CPG companies thrive. And philosophically, we believe that the next phase of growth doesn't happen by accident, it happens by design. So what is it? What is planning? We've talked a lot about the why and the philosophy, but what does it actually look like? What are the pieces to planning that teams will have access to today? So really what we've built out is a calendar-based production scheduling. So Jason will get more into this, but you can kind of see some of the things here. We really want it to be visual. We really want it to be interactive. People are really familiar with tools like Monday.com, Asana, ClickUp, Google Calendar, Outlook. These are all tools that people are using, spreadsheets. We want this to be, process driven. So we have the concept of production plan templates. We have different ways for you to view this information. We are really thinking about forward and backward scheduling. Really, what that means is manufacturing to order, manufacturing to stock, deep integration into work orders, right? We want you to not just have a calendar view, but we want those integrations into the manufacturing side of Elevated Signals, where you not just have a visual representation, but you can actually go and click into different work orders, see conflicts, reschedule things, and have a really great experience in terms of the usability of it. Something that we've also seen is time and duration estimates. Obviously, if we're building out planning, we're starting to think about scheduling. We're thinking about, the dynamic nature of the cannabis industry, where, you might be on a Friday and looking at the week out ahead, and you really need to kind of move and shuffle things around because maybe the dynamic labor isn't available on a specific date. What you thought you had on planned. These are kind of things that we've definitely taken into account. Linking things to specific batches, specific sales orders. Talked a little bit of conflict-free scheduling. That's still in the early phases, but we're going to be working on that more and more. And really, this is laying a foundation for the second part of what we call planning and scheduling, where scheduling is really based around teams and resources and how you kind of assemble teams around work to be done. So with that, I'll pass it over to Jason, and he will go through the how. How does this all come together? So I'll stop sharing.
This is the new planning module. So right off the bat, you'll probably notice that this is not the UI that you're used to seeing for Elevated Signals. So as we built out this new module, we've also started to build out a new UI. And so over the next little while here, hopefully you'll see more of this UI moving to the rest of our software and our other new modules and features. What you're looking at here is hopefully recognizable as a calendar that kind of looks kind of like your Google Calendar or your Outlook calendar with a bunch of events in here. And actually, each of these events are actual work orders that exist in your facility already. So these are actually linked to work orders, and these are actual chains of events. So if I open this little section here, you can see that this retail packaging work order is part of a chain with this jar filling and this trimming work order here. So this chain is called a production run. And this is a kind of piece of information that maybe day to day is transferred to employees on the facility floor via some kind of shared calendar. Maybe it's a whiteboard, or maybe it's a meeting every morning, right? And what we wanted to do is give you the ability to work within this module and produce that schedule for your team, provide that visibility. And we want to do that through being able to chain these work orders through production runs. To be able to actually kind of like put these into action, we have this other notion called a production plan. And what these really are is representative of processes within your facility. So for example, here, I'm just gonna screen a bit bigger here so you can see more. As you can see here, we're looking at a post-harvest process here, and this is a combination of several different work orders. So maybe there's a harvest work order that leads into a bucking work order, a trimming one, and then a packaging work order at the end there. So you can see along the left here, I've got a few examples of other ones that might seem familiar, maybe repacking or filling for pre-rolls. But it's really these plans that get made into these chains of production runs that exist on this calendar here. So to give us an idea of how this will actually work in practice, let's go and do an example of this. So let me just switch over to another window here. So I'm going to go ahead and on this kind of more empty calendar here, I'm going to go and start and make a new production plan. So this is going to be a template of a workflow. So I'm going to plan here. I'm going to go ahead and just add a new item. So for this one, start with a filling event that go on for say 4 hours. And then we'll just add in another one after that for retail packaging. That'll go on for another 4 hours. You just call this retail pack. So you can see my plan now exists, and I can go back to my calendar here, and let's throw that in to this calendar. Let's have that start on maybe the 15th here. So go ahead and select my retail pack with name, and I'm happy with that start time. We're going to adjust the start time 9 a.m. Hit create, and now you can see that I actually have some work orders on the 15th here that got pushed in with that bulk packaging that was already here, that filling and retail packaging work order here now. If I take a look at one of these, you'll notice that its location is in the packaging room, and that's what this little red exclamation mark is when I look at when I look at this little view here. I see these red exclamation marks. It's because these are all in the same room. And so these processes can't actually all happen at the same time. And so we actually want to move this out. So maybe we just want to move this to a different day. So I'll start with filling here, and I'll just kind of drag this onto next week somewhere. And that'll move, and you'll notice what it actually does is it not only moves the filling work order itself, it also moves the retail packaging work order itself. And you'll notice that we don't have any of those red exclamation marks either anymore. So really thinking about, being able to interact with this interface to see conflicts, resolve conflicts by just moving things around. And when you go and move those things around, that any subsequent actions are kind of moving with it to reduce, just how much tedious clicking and rescheduling that you have to do if something happens in your facility, which I'm sure happens all the time. As we're kind of looking at this, there's obviously a bunch of stuff that can sit on top of this feature. So obviously this isn't the end of it. There will be there's lots of plans to move forward and build more on top of what we have here. So to talk a little bit more about that, I'll put it back to Hardy.
Great. Hopefully everybody can see my screen again. So the way that we are actually rolling this out is that we're doing it in 3 phases. The first phase that Jason just showed as well is the post-harvest. So we want to start with the post-harvest. Casks are very dynamic on this side of the process. And then from there, what we'll do is we'll expand into cultivation workflows and really kind of how this all ties together at the end of it is really that stock forecast, right? We want to be able to project out 2 teams forecasted stock based on the production plans that they have in the software. So if we think about elevated signals, what is it really becoming? And we are becoming a manufacturer resource planning tool. And so this is allowing us to start laying the foundations for that reality where we now have the production plan within the software from a post-harvest perspective. Once we have cultivation, that is now capturing all of the work that is going to happen within the organization. And so the nuance here is that we are launching post-harvest. That is for the end of this month. That will go live. Some of you probably have access to it in training already. You'll see heavy active development on that as we kind of wrap that core functionality up. And so as we're wrapping that functionality up, as we're talking to teams, we'll be trying to figure out, will we actually focus on cultivation next, or will we focus on stock forecasting, or will it be some combination of that? So if you're interested in this, we'd love for you to reach out to us. Because the order of operation will really depend on the interest that we have from different teams. So if you'd like to get this going, definitely reach out. And so just to recap all of this, so if you really are trying to take 3 key messages away from this presentation today, it's really that planning is built to replace the chaos. We want to move teams beyond the spreadsheets, beyond the whiteboards with a centralized visual system designed for how real production teams work. We take a lot of pride in terms of being kind of very hands-on with our customers in terms of trying to understand how do we actually make this reality happen. The second message is that it's ready to use. So if you're interested in this, please reach out to get access in production. So email success@elevatedsignals.com to schedule a meeting. And then what we can do is get planning activated for your team and go through that process. That will be a bit of a process where we look at your current existing production plan and we start picking away at that and trying to figure out how to actually get that change management process done so that we can have it living in elevated signals instead. The third message is that this is really about enabling the next phase of growth for an organization. So whether you're expanding SKUs, the team, or you're accessing new markets, planning is really a foundation to help scale with confidence and clarity. So planning is built to replace the chaos. It's ready to use. And this is what we think is going to really help teams with growth. So I will maybe leave with one final comment here. So we've had, like I said, it's been 8 years as an organization. And so we've really been looking internally as an organization in terms of why is it what we do, in terms of why do we build these products. We've had different ways to communicate, what it is that we want to provide. If you really have been with, if you've been with Elevated Signals over those 8 years, you'll know that we started out as a grow with precision. That was a very different world in which, you know, Elevated Signals was helping, like I said at the beginning, help organizations with traceability, you know, reporting to Health Canada, and it was really about the cultivation side of things. Over the years, we've gone more and more into manufacturing, and something that we are now starting to say internally is, what are we trying to do? Well, what we're trying to do is provide clarity in motion, clarity to teams that are in motion. And what is motion? Motion is really about scale, right? Scale happens, and there's lots of motion that is happening within the organization. So just wanted to introduce this concept for everybody on the call. You'll see this kind of really starting to be a part of the core of Elevated Signals. So with that, Anne, let's schedule a call, and I will pass it back to Dana.
Thanks so much, Harry. I also added a link in the chat as well, with a calendar link. So you can just book a time that works for your team if you want to chat about planning with us as well. So this leads us to our Q&A portion. I see a lot of questions rolling in. Feel free to add them in the section, or I'll double check the chat as well. But we have our first question from Gia. Is the planning feature specific to growing, trimming, and cannabis plant production? We're an edible and vape manufacturer and use cannabis oil, and are wondering how this will work for us.
Yeah, so great question. It's meant for not just the cultivation side, it's also meant for all the 2.0 products as well. So whether you're doing edibles or vapes or anything like that, this will definitely work. So this is, at the end of the day, it's scheduling work orders. So if you're using work orders to produce edibles or vapes or anything like that, this is a natural fit for all of those processes as well.
Okay, then next question's from Andrew. What's the price of the software?
Yeah, very transparently. So it is a new paid for module. We are going through the exercise of defining the price at the moment. So this is the new this is one of the new modules that we've released in, substantial ones that we've released in quite a few years here. So obviously we've put a lot of research and development into it. We've shifted the entire team's resources to delivering this. So we will be working consultatively with the teams that are engaging with us to determine what that price is. So hopefully that answers that question. Reach out. We'd love to chat through this. One of the things that we've really been learning as an organization is how to price. What we recognize is that there are different companies are at different phases of growth. And what we really have been trying to work through over the last year is, how do we align pricing to growth? So that is just our general philosophy, to be very fair and make sure that the price is sustainable and aligns with the growth of revenue of the customer. So yeah, figuring it out.
The next question's from Colin. I'm happy to see that you'll be working on including labor planning. Will you have a feature for just planning, or also reporting actual labor? Great question.
So the answer is yes. We want to have the way that we really think about this is, the plan is the budget, right? Like if you think about it from a financial sense, you have your budget versus actual. And so the plan is really that budget concept, and the actual is when you actually go and enter the data, right? So this is from a manufacturing resource perspective. We always want to give you the budget versus actuals, because what that allows is for process optimization within the organization. So 100%, this is definitely on the table in terms of the reports that we want to be able to provide, and the insights and analytics that we want to be able to provide as a part of planning as well.
The next question is from Jesse. Very cool features as part of stock forecasting. Will you be able to include notification based on low stock limits?
100%. Yep. We've actually already built the concept of stock limits into the software. You can set safety stock thresholds within the software. And so that third phase that I described here, that's when we'll be integrating that component into it. So that actually exists in the software. We haven't really put it out onto the front end just yet, but we have been working that into the process as well.
Next question is from Jordan. Can the calendar integrate with other calendar apps like Outlook?
Yeah, this is a good one. So philosophically, love to make this happen. I think something that we've been recognizing is that even though we have the production plan within the software, you still have a calendar outside of elevated signals. And so for us to be able to provide an integration into Google Calendar or into the Office 365 calendar makes a lot of sense. Because like I said, you probably have other activities that you've put into there as well. So we'll definitely be exploring this. We don't have it built out yet, but we understand the need for why something like this should exist. Maybe just one comment on this as well. You know, we are, even though we're rolling this out, we're still in a very heavy R&D phase of this as well. So we'd love any and all feedback in terms of what challenges do you run into while you're going through the process of creating a production plan. Where do things fall apart in terms of communication? The best way that I can kind of describe why is the relationship that we like to have with our partners is that treat us as kind of like a smart friend that you can use. If you have a problem in terms of scheduling and planning, write it down, share it with us. You know, we're essentially an extension of your team, right? We will go away and we will think about this problem. We will go and not only think about it in isolation in terms of the context of what you're doing, but we'll also go and look at this problem from the context of maybe, 30 other companies as well, right? And our goal is to always try to come with the best solution that is aligning with different phases. And that kind of ties into that last question there, but I'll come back to that. So if you are looking at this and you're kind of getting some of these ideas like that, reach out to Success at Elevated, because we love to kind of, it's like at the end of the day, if we build a feature, but it's not actually usable, we wasted a bunch of time, we're wasting our customers' time, and that's something that we definitely don't want to do. And we want to make sure that it's very aligned with how you work day to day.
So Jay's next question, and thank you everybody for putting questions here. These are awesome. Is there a place in the planning feature to click on a particular workday and see the total units produced number for that particular calendar day?
No, this is a great comment. Not at the moment, but I'm gonna note this one down and bring it into our roadmap.
And then Perry asked, which tiers will the planning module be available for?
Yeah, so this we're still figuring this out. Right now, it is open for discussion. Where we focused on is really Pro and Ultra at the moment. If you're on Core, reach out and we can have a conversation of how to get you access to this.
And the next question is from Jackson. Will there be a BOM capability within production plans? If so, would these be fully modifiable? Also, will there be ERP integration options like the current platform?
Yeah, BOMs are already built into it. So as we schedule work orders, the bill of materials are tied to the work orders. So if you are going and putting production plans down, you can already assign the bill of material to it. Where the deeper integration of bill of materials will happen is in that phase 3 with the stock forecasting, where we're going to be doing the projection of stock, right? So you can already use the production plan to put in work orders that have the bill of material. And I think I was just on a call yesterday with a customer, and I think there might be an opportunity for us to actually put together a few reports even before phase 3 to give visibility in terms of allocated stock. And then, sorry, the ERP integration. Yeah, ERP integrations, like for if you're using SAP or NetSuite or any of the Microsoft ERP, open for discussion. We haven't necessarily built that out into our current roadmap. This is really for customers who don't have an ERP in place already. Elevated Signals serves as their ERP, but again, I think the way that we look at a relationship between us and an ERP is the ERP is really the financial operating system, and Elevated Signals is the manufacturing operating system. So if you have an ERP, we are going through a couple ERP integration projects at the moment. So if you are using one, again, let's have that discussion and we can figure out what that could look like.
Next question's from Greg. In the planning module, also schedule destruction. How can we take rejects from batch records and move them to destruction and schedule?
If I'm understanding this correctly, obviously I'm reading into this question a bit, but no, not at the moment. So the bill of material doesn't take into account projected destruction if it's from that perspective, and I think that is how we would actually schedule out destruction activity. So, Greg, I'd love to follow up with you on this. If you want to reach out, can drop my email here, and then I would love to understand the use case for this. High level, it makes a lot of sense. We just kind of really understand the nuances of it. Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, that looks like all the questions. Any last minute questions? Give you a few seconds, so type fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a great Q&A session. Thanks so much, guys, for your questions. And if anything pops up after the fact that sparks some kind of epiphany, feel free to email at success@elevatedsignals.com as well.
Maybe just a final little closing remark. This last week we did about 21 conversations with customers, and it's been really great. I think this is how we really like to work as an organization, is very closely with our customers. And we're definitely looking forward to it. Like I personally am very, I'm looking forward to having more of these. If you follow just kind of more something philosophically to share with the team, everybody here, is that we follow a lot of different concepts from manufacturing. One of the concepts is the Gemba walk. That's from Toyota. So if you're familiar with that one, awesome. If not, what really means is that in order for you to understand something, you have to go and see it. And so for us as a company, when we're building any of these features, what we're really trying to get back to is the go and see method. So please, reach out, share what you have in terms of things that you'd like to see or challenges that you face as a team. And we'd love to kind of get out there at some point and see the operation if we haven't already, or if it's been a while to see it, and try to understand what the challenges are around production planning. And we've got a full roadmap that we'll share in terms of things that we're building up for this year in subsequent webinars. But really excited for this year, and just it's a pretty heavy R&D year for us. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. And just to let you know, I'll be sending the recording of this session as well in the next coming days, so you can watch it again or send it to your team. Yeah, I think that's everything for today. Thanks for Hardeep and Jason. You guys killed it. And Have a great day, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.